Let's also bring you the kind of losses that Russia is facing at this point of time on your screens right now. You've got 28 days that the war has been on. In terms of personnel, Russia has lost 15,300 of their personnel in this war. 509 tanks also lost. Let's get you the APV figure also on your screens. 1,556, 252 artillery. In terms of aircrafts, let's get you what the losses have been like, 99 and 123 helicopters. As far as Soviet Afghan war duration is concerned, 10 years it went on. 15,051 personnel lost their lives, 385 tanks, 1,314 APVs, 433 artilleries, 118 aircrafts and 400 helicopters. These are the claims that have been made by Ukrainian government. 6 rounds of peace talks have taken place between Russia and Ukraine, but there is no sign of a breakthrough as yet. Zelensky has again asked Putin for direct talks to end the conflict, but Putin shows no signs of backing down. The world is now holding its breath and asking, when and how will this war really end? Take a look at this report.
Land.
28 days and counting. Millions have fled their homes. The human cost continues to mount. The economy is flattened. But there are no signs of an end to this war. After 6 rounds of peace talks, a breakthrough still eludes Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has once again called for direct talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. Russia has rejected Zelensky's demand right away. Moscow says the president-level talks can happen only after the two sides agree on a deal.
With regards to the internal Ukrainian dialogue, it's upon Ukraine now after our operation in Ukraine ends. I hope it ends with the signing of a comprehensive agreement on security issues, that is Ukraine's neutral status with the guarantees of its security.
Much will also depend on where the US stands. American President Joe Biden is traveling to Poland this week. President Biden will not be visiting Ukraine despite request by Kyiv. President Zelensky is making no bones about his disappointment with his Western allies. While Ukraine is putting up a fierce fight despite relentless Russian bombardment, the question is how long they can do that. This is one war neither side seems to have an endgame. Bureau Report, India Today.
As Russian forces continue to rain missiles on key Ukrainian cities, US President Joe Biden will travel to Poland at the end of the week. What does Biden's visit to NATO member Poland mean amidst the raging Ukraine-Russia war? And what is the message that the United States of America President Joe Biden is trying to send out? Our next report will give you all these answers.
He's about to mark a month of his invasion of Ukraine. He's about to mark a month of rapid-fire sanctions against Russia. And he's about to mark a month of warning the international community about World War III. In just hours from now, these three leaders will be on the same landmass. After his vice president failed to cut any ice in Poland last week, US President Biden will be in Ukraine's neighboring country this week. The visit comes amidst weeks of suspense over whether Ukraine's NATO neighbors will help stop Putin's war machine.
Oh, I think he is a war criminal.
Will you be meeting with him?
Now, in the Ukrainian land, our soldiers and officers are fighting for Russia, for a peaceful life, for the people of Donbass, to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine so that no anti-Russia that has been created by the West next to our borders didn't threaten us. With nuclear weapons as well, as it was happening recently, our people is proud of.
US President Joe Biden's visit to Poland comes at a time when Ukraine's President Zelensky has increasingly felt more disenchanted and betrayed by both the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries. And this disenchantment he has openly expressed in more ways than one, and now on more occasions than one.
Зробити Україна, щоб стати членом НАТО, бути в безпеці, отримати гарантії безпеки. Ми чули відповідь. Рішення такого на столі поки що немає. І найближчим часом не буде. Як і крісла для нас за цим столом.
Between the belligerence of Putin and the self-righteous counterstrikes by Biden, Europe is taking on a terrifying post-war hue. Devastation in big cities, talk of battle in the air, nuclear forces on operational alert, night skies lit up by explosions, weapons by the ton flowing across international borders, and the hustle and bustle of superpower leaders with no real plan on stopping the actual violence. Can Biden provide clarity on what happens next? With Gaurav Sawant in Poland and Geeta Mohan in Moscow, Bureau Report, India Today.
Hours after Russia's attack on Ukraine began, 5 German warships set sail for Latvia to help protect NATO's eastern flank. Russia's invasion has propelled the alliance into what the Secretary General Stoltenberg has called a new normal. Here is a news report.
Hours after Russia's attack on Ukraine began, 5 German warships set sail for Latvia to help protect the most vulnerable part of NATO's eastern flank. Russia's invasion has propelled the alliance into what Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has called a new normal. It looks a lot like the past. NATO was founded in 1949 to defend against the Soviet threat. Now a new Iron Curtain could fall across Europe. NATO needs to ensure its members are not behind it if it does. NATO has expanded eastwards since the 1990s, bringing in former Soviet states such as Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, where these French troops disembarked last week. A single overland corridor connects them to the rest of NATO territory, and it's squeezed between the heavily armed Russian enclave of Kaliningrad and Moscow ally Belarus. An emboldened Russia could encircle the Baltic states and cut them off from the rest of the alliance. That's where the Latvian mission comes in, a regular mine-clearing exercise that was brought forward by Russia's invasion. One goal is to keep the waterway open. The other is a show of strength. This was German naval commander Terje Schmidt-Eliasson on board the Elbe in Riga's harbour.
We'll be 12 units from 6 countries, and we are essentially showing our presence in the eastern Baltic.
Direct confrontation between NATO and Russia could touch off a global conflict. One retired NATO commander told Reuters the alliance is considering whether deterrence is enough. Not according to Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis last week.
We are convinced in the Baltic states that we need to move from deterrence to a standing defense, and has to come from NATO planning leadership, that they would start looking into the region differently than they had throughout the last 2 decades.
Since the invasion, NATO allies have also moved 5 aircraft carriers into European waters, increased the number of warplanes in NATO airspace, and more than doubled the size of combat units in the Baltics and Poland. NATO also faces a return to mechanised warfare and a huge increase in defence spending.
Doctors in second largest city of Ukraine, Kharkiv, have set up a labour room and hospital basement to help Ukrainian women give birth in a city bombarded by Russian forces. More details in this report.
In a Kharkiv hospital basement, a new labour room has been set up to help Ukrainian women give birth, while the city above them remains under siege from Russian forces. Medics here provide both routine and urgent services, from nursing tiny premature babies to offering milk and food to both mother and child. Director of Kharkiv Regional Perinatal Centre, Irina Kondratova, says the space also acts as a delivery and surgery room.
Here you see, there was a birth in the morning and there are still solutions left here. So we have arranged 2 places here. 2 births can take place at the same time. We have not had this in Ukraine for a long time. We have always had individual maternity rooms. But it is clear that in these conditions, we all work in slightly extreme conditions.
Kondratova says her staff have mostly stayed at the hospital since the beginning of the war. Some have even brought family members to join them.
I just endlessly bow to all my staff who stayed here with me. Many of them have not been home all these 26 days. Many left without homes and brought their parents, wives and children here. One even brought their cat.
Yana is just one of the women who has given birth in the makeshift labour room. Holding her new baby, she says that her house has been bombed and that they have nowhere else to go. Kharkiv is just one of the cities under bombardment since Russia launched what it calls a special operation in Ukraine last month. Kondratova briefly took over former England soccer star David Beckham's Instagram account this week to help raise awareness and bring in funds to their operation.
Slipping to a break when we return, Bengal on boil after bloodbath and alleged killings to avenge murder of TMC leader. Details in just about a bit.
You are watching India Today.
Crypto Watch brought to you by BitBNS.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. This is Ukraine's true danger zone. Up close and fearless in Ukraine's combat zone. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
You are watching India Today. You are watching India Today.
All-out politics erupt over the deadly Birbhum blaze that left 8 people dead on Tuesday. The BJP is demanding immediate resignation from West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. Governor Jagdeep Dhankar has also hit out the state government, calling the blaze horrifying violence and arson. Mamata, meanwhile, has hit back at the governor, saying that the governor has chosen an unfortunate event to make unwarranted statements on the law and order situation in the state. She added that 10 people have been arrested so far. Yesterday, the Home Ministry sought a report on the incident within 72 hours. Joint Secretary level officers of the Home Ministry will visit Bengal soon. Suryagini is now joining us live. Suryagini, where does the investigation stand as far as this bloodbath is concerned in Bengal? There have been revenge killings. That's the big question. If you could just bring us up to speed with the latest as far as this crisis is concerned.
Well, Chaiti, first of all, I'd just like to show all our viewers the condition of the house, which was, we still don't know whether it'll be correct to call it burned down or what happened, because the investigation is still on and there's a political blame game. But this is that particular house which has been burned down to ashes. So this is the house of an individual named Sona Sheikh. And this is where 7 bodies were recovered yesterday morning. Now, as you can see, it's been cordoned off. The forensic team was here just a while back. They did collect samples, and there's another house just beside it. Half of it is completely, burnt, as you can see. So as of yet, the death toll is at 8. 10 were, in totality, 10 were injured, of which 8 were completely, sadly, lost their lives. Now, there's a huge police deployment since that particular night. One very important thing when it comes to this entire episode is we spoke to one of those ladies, the only lady who's there at that particular house that we're just showing you right now. Her name was Manjira Bibi. We spoke to her a while back. She clearly stated that that particular night when she wasn't here, she came back from the hospital and she heard people screaming from inside, and I questioned her. We spoke to her right now, so you can see the distance. They are immediate neighbors. I asked her that if and when these people were screaming, why didn't anyone go and help them? She replied that people were afraid of their individual lives. Now, once again, I'll show you the house. There's a police deployment over here. They have come over here. They are, investigating. The special investigating team that has been formed it's on its way. It's going to come back. It's going to come over here in a short while from now. The forensic team has come over here. A lot of these villagers have left this particular area. However, there are people like Marjina Bibi, whom we spoke to, and few others whom we spoke to, who claim that they will stay here because they do not have an option. One very important trivia that we have figured out since last night, all the villagers that we spoke to, they claim that this is the house of Sona Sheikh, and Sona Sheikh and Bhadu Sheikh, the Upapradhan, or the deputy pradhan of this particular village, were very close. At one point they had a fallout, and Sona was an accused in a case where Bhadu's brother was murdered. So there again, comes up the question, the biggest question: was this a planned activity, or whether or not, this was an accident? Whatever it was, an investigation is on. The saddest part of this entire story is that 8 people have lost their lives from this particular house behind us. Back to you, Chaiti.
All right, Suryagini, thank you so much for that extensive ground report. We will keep coming back to you for more on this bloodshed in Bengal, which is going to be one of our top stories, along with the Russia-Ukraine war. For now, it's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula, on this bulletin. My colleague Nabila Jamal will join you next with the top headlines. For further news and updates, do not forget to log on to indiatoday.in or go ahead and download our app.
Are watching India Today.
The war between Russia and Ukraine has brought back focus on the world's arms trade. Data from Stockholm International Peace Research Institute reveals who dominates the world's arms trade and which countries are their biggest clients.
तो हर मुश्किल से बाउंस बैक मुमकिन है. HDFC Life. सर उठा कीजिए.